I'm Eric Wolf, and my experience in business peer groups has changed my life, especially my membership in Vistage, one of the world's largest CEO advisory groups. I'm an entrepreneur, a business owner, and a Vistage speaker on the power of marketing. This podcast is dedicated to the people who make those experiences possible, the peer group chairs. Every episode, I interview a Vistage chair who has dedicated their time to helping entrepreneurs like me succeed. My guest today is Christine Pouliot, and we practiced extensively the pronunciation of the last name, so hopefully that worked out. Christine, thank you so much for joining me.
You are welcome. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So Christine comes to us from the Minneapolis-St. Paul greater area. She's a Vistage chair there, and welcome. You've got a really cool background in that you worked 35 years for a very big company and Cargill, that's agriculture, right?
Correct.
And so you're working for this gigantic global company, and you're there for 35 years, and now you're a Vistage chair. How does and of course working with Vistage members whose companies do not in any way resemble Cargill. So how was that transition for you? And I'd love to hear the story of how you got involved with Vistage after that kind of career.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting story. So I, like you said, spent 35 years at Cargill. All of that aspect, all of that career was in some aspect of information technology. So I was a global IT leader. And my last job at Cargill was outsourcing my team. So the
Okay.
process of that and helping them train a third-party provider so that we could exit or redeploy them also meant me. And so my last couple of years was really focused on making that shift and change and exploring and examining, what is phase two of Christine's career when I had actually never anticipated a phase two.
What's it like? And I have to ask about this. What's it like, essentially orchestrating your own layoff? Like you're sitting there and like that the end of this work means that you no longer work at the company. That must have been a very difficult way to conduct your business every day.
Well, initially for sure. And I think for me, as well as my team, what we had to do is wrap our mind around what was really the end goal. Well, why was this decision being made by Cargill at the top? What were they hoping for? What were the challenges they saw that they had hoped that this would shift for the
Right.
company? And we could all argue or disagree with how we got there, but everyone could get aligned with the challenges that we had that they were looking to resolve.
Gotcha.
So it's not about deciding the how, but the what. So what we did, what I did, and what we did with what I did with my team was to really wrap their head around why would they make a decision like this, and what was it they were hoping for, regardless of whether we agreed that this was the approach to get there.
Right.
And then you want to leave a legacy, right? For them as well as for me, to leave a legacy that says that we're doing what's right for the company, and we'll figure out where that takes us. And candidly, if you do your job well and you do what's right, I think things come together
I
and people support you in whatever that transition is.
I think you're right about that, and I really the way that you said that was actually really nice. I appreciate that. So you're in this project that takes, I think you said, a couple of years, and you know now that what you hadn't expected, that there's going to be a stage two in your career and in your work life. And so how did you process that, and how did you come to Vistage?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that as I was doing all throughout my career, I had obviously great peers and partners. And an HR business partner of mine a few years earlier had said, you should take that coach training because I think it really fits you. It suits how you lead, it suits how you develop your people. And I think you'd really enjoy that. So I attended a coach training program that actually we had brought in-house into Cargill my last year. And after day two, I thought, I think I could do this. I like, yes, this resonates with me. I like it. So, not having a clue what it meant to be an entrepreneur, I decided to get my coaching certification and I registered my business with the state of Minnesota and hung my shingle out
Yep.
before I left and saying, this is going to be it. Obviously, the following year was a bit of a rude awakening. Um, Good Cargill people don't have a network outside of Cargill because we think we're going to spend our whole life there. So
Right.
here I was leaving a major corporate career and going, nobody knows me, and I'm going to be a coach. Well, I am a coach. And the other challenge was that I was coming from an IT position, which people saw as kind of polarized from coaching.
It's
And
not it's not what people typically think of as the executive role when you're coming out and you're saying, "Hey, I'm gonna coach executives and I'm gonna," but yeah, you're right. And actually the other thing that I was going to point out is that there aren't I haven't met a lot of Vistage chairs that came in with an IT background where, or came up through that. I mean, obviously there's leaders in IT as well. It's not everybody just, doing this all day, but you took an unconventional path.
yeah, there is a mindset around that. So people expect if you're going to move into, let's say, a coaching business, which is where I started 9.5 years ago, is when I registered and started my business as a coach. People expect that from people who have lived in the HR talent development
Yep.
space within a major company, but not so much IT.
Yeah.
But I love the people leadership side of things and growing and developing people and helping them get out of their own way when they were inhibiting their own success. And so for me, it felt really natural, but I had to do some translation for others to build my
Right.
brand marketplace and build a network. Um, I'd seen something about Vistage probably on LinkedIn some years after I had started my coaching business, and I didn't know how to get in, but I knew it was something that really intrigued me. Growing up, small town, dairy farmer's daughter, I wanted to have an impact in, um, the foundational aspect of our entire country is these small and middle market companies. And so I was intrigued by that and found somebody who had given me an introduction to be able to go through the recruitment process with Vistage. So I started that journey a little over 3 years ago, about 3.5 years ago, and went through that recruiting and selection process with Vistage. And excited to say that I survived that process. So here I am.
You're here.
I
You made it.
run my Vistage group, and I have my coaching practice on the side. My priority is my Vistage work, and I love it.
That's really, really cool. Now, what was it? Um, and notably also, you started your coaching business. You said 9, 10 years ago. That was before this whole fractional executive craze took hold, and where nowadays somebody like you could have very easily come out of corporate IT and said, okay, I'm going to be a fractional CIO or I'm going to be a fractional COO, and people would have bought off on that really, really easily. This was before all of that. And so how did you then take the how did you get your first clients, and how was it building that business, and then how's it different now that you're in Vistage?
Well, I started out on LinkedIn, honestly.
Yep.
So back when I first started, LinkedIn had um, an application that they called ProFinder, and you could put out there that you offered certain services, and any member in LinkedIn could go out there and request services. So I got leads fed through all of that, and that's what really got me started. What I found was that there was a big demand for career coaching, which was not exactly where I wanted to play, but it got me some exposure, got me some testimonials, and allowed me to start working that way. The other thing that I did, in addition to LinkedIn and marketing and getting a good website set up, was I found other organizations, because what I found is that as a solopreneur,
Hmm.
it was really hard to get into, especially bigger companies. They're not really interested in doing a contract with a one-off person. They'd rather work with a company that can supply them with a multitude of coaches that they can choose from, that they can spread across their
Right.
organization. And so I found and partnered with a number of organizations. My favorite by far is Coach Source. They've got phenomenal engagements with major players like Microsoft and 3M and John Deere and Humana and all kinds of organizations where um, they then will use my bio to map me and match me to clients that they have engagements with.
Very cool.
Right management is another one. I also do work through Mindbeat, which is a company based out of the UK. And so that's been a big piece of that to, and candidly, to build a brand in the marketplace, you need recommendations and testimonials.
Absolutely.
So building up a suite of those, doing some
What
speaking engagements as well. So that also gets visibility.
a lot of Vistage chairs will say that one of the hardest things that they have done, and they're like throughout life in general, not just in business or as a Vistage chair, but a lot of them say that one of the hardest things that they ever had to do was build that first group because they weren't used to being in that biz dev role. You came into Vistage understanding that and understanding that, hey, I've got to make connections and I've got to do speaking engagements and I've got to shake hands. How was that transition for you when you started? Were you prepared for that challenge?
No,
Still no.
no,
Oh
still
boy.
no. Um, yeah, I think there's a couple of things that make it different. So first of all, I am truly an introvert, so the whole piece of biz development is uncomfortable, always has been, still is.
Right.
And I'm an achiever, so if I set my mind to it, I can force myself to go through things that I really don't want to do. Um, but I think that uh, there's a lot of challenges with building the group. And I would say one of the added challenges, according like comparing building a Vistage group and launching my business, is the time pressure.
Right.
And so when you first start building the Vistage group, you've got a very tight timeline.
Yeah. You're on the
That
clock from day one.
you're on the clock from day one. You put everything else on hold, and and you're pounding the pavement. So it's a very different approach. With a coaching business, you get testimonials out there, you got a nice website, you have conversations, you do some networking. But with Vistage, you're cold calling people. And you can work your network, but you need to be working within a reserve list that you work from. And and that can be a difficult and painful process.
Yeah.
Sometimes the data is just wrong, and you're talking to somebody and you find out the company's based in New York, Monticello, New York, not Monticello, Minnesota. Oops. Or you call somebody and you ask for somebody and they say, well, they died 3 years ago. Oh,
You're like,
I'm sorry.
well, but are they
Who's leading your
interested
company
in
now?
some professional development? Maybe. So that, yes, that
Yeah.
is,
So
and
so it's a challenging process, and candidly, it's a volume game as well, because you're gonna call and call and call and email, and some of the data is not accurate as
yeah,
you go through it. And the only thing that keeps you going is when you get somebody that answers the phone and they actually want to talk.
yes,
And then that gets excited when you cold call somebody and they say, yeah, here's some of the challenges that I'm dealing with right now. They're looking for a place.
right.
Actually say it out loud. And that's like, then you feel like, oh, that was a win. Even if it doesn't go further, it feels like you've done something that um, starts a good conversation for somebody.
I'm gonna, if you don't mind, because you were kind enough to send me some information before this. I'm gonna read you something from your from what you sent me. It says, in business and life, growth and change have a way of stretching people and teams beyond what's comfortable. Talk to me about that and what it's like for you to get people who have been stretched beyond what's comfortable for them or maybe even what's tenable for them, and how you then work with that person as their Vistage chair or as their coach.
Yeah, great. It's a great question. Sounds easier than it is, right?
I'm sure.
But what I find is that I think it's really important that these leaders that are part of Vistage are looking to be challenged. They've lived and
Right.
run their business many times within a bubble. Sometimes they're part of an industry peer group, but largely they're running it. And when they have things that they can't talk to their leadership team about yet because it's still spinning around in their mind, it's my job as the chair to one, personally challenge them in our one-to-ones, but it's also the job of teaching their peers in the room to get, as we call it in Vistage, carefrontational, putting it out there, putting the mirror up to help them look maybe deeper than they have done it in service of what they're hoping for.
I would love to hear, because you're running a CE group, a chief executive group.
Yes.
Tell me about your group.
What would you like to know about my group?
I'd like to know, I'd love to hear about what you feel like makes your group special and what it's like working with them.
Okay. Yeah, so we're a pretty young group and we're a pretty small group right now. We had some challenges up front in the beginning where I had some of the wrong people in the group and we had to make some really tough changes. But now I would say that our small group has bonded really well. I have a very diverse group in that I have several members that are under 40, a few in their 40s, and the smaller number that are in their 50s. And so it's a young group, which is sometimes unusual in the Vistage community that are running
Yeah,
companies.
it can be.
We've got a good mix of men and women in the group. Got some women-run businesses that are very non-traditional, like a logistics broker company and a civil architecture and engineering firm that are run by women,
Very
um,
cool.
which makes it really fun. What I love about it is that they didn't know each other. And in fact, one of my members said, I don't really need any more friends. So I'm not joining this to have a network of people that I like. And 2 years later, she said, I really care about these people. And they do. And so what's beautiful to witness is as they gather in the room when it's Vistage meeting day and watch how they greet each other, how they connect with each other. They want to know what's going on in their lives with each other as well as their businesses. And they truly care about each other. They support each other outside of the meeting, sending each other things. And for me, that's just a beautiful thing to witness. And it's exactly what you hope to create.
Well, and it's been definitely, I've definitely had conversations with folks about what, because while Vistage is a big organization, right, and it's all over the world, and there's a million different types of groups and places that you can have a Vistage experience, but so much of that experience happens between the chair and the member, and it's completely you can't just go and put one member in some other group and have it be the same experience. So what do you look for when you're looking for members, and what what tells you when you're talking to somebody that, yeah, this is a person that's going to be amazing in this group?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's some similarity, I'm sure, that we all look for certain things, but growth mindset is one of the things that's deeply important. So recognizing that they are not the smartest person in the room
Right.
and that they know they have opportunity to learn from other people, and they are eager to learn from other people. That's all great. And a willingness to bring their messiest mess, their greatest opportunity. The greatest opportunity is an easy one. The messy messes, the stuff that's not working, is a challenge for CEOs and owners to put out in front of a group of peers. And so getting at, are they willing to share stuff with a group that makes them feel like, man, I've made a mess of this, or I'm not perfect, I don't have it all figured out. Because that's where they get the greatest value. And so part of that selection process is trying to get underneath that to see if they're willing to be vulnerable. They can get value out of the speakers and things like that and learn from that. But if they're really not able and willing to bring a meaty challenge to the table,
Right.
it's a lot harder for them to get the kind of ROI that they could get if they do.
Very cool. It's been really great chatting with you. If someone is interested in learning about the coolest little Vistage group in Minnesota, what's the best way for folks to get in touch with you? Email, LinkedIn, what's your preference?
Yeah, I'm pretty accessible. All of it works for me. So phone, email, LinkedIn, I'm in all of them every day, 7 days a week. So people are able to reach out to me with any of that.
Cool, and we'll link to your stuff in the show notes. So thank you so much for being a fantastic guest. This was a lot of fun. I love your story, and thank you for hanging out with me.
Thank you, Eric. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Chairwaves. You can subscribe to our feed using Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your platform of choice. You can also visit chairwaves.com for more information. Chairwaves is hosted and produced by me, Eric Wolf, and to connect with me, you can visit my website at ewolf.live. That's EWOLF.live. And a disclaimer, while I love Vistage and CEO peer groups, this podcast is not owned by or affiliated with Vistage or any other peer organization. Thanks for listening.